My name is Layla and welcome back to my channel. As you've read in the title, today we will be talking about boundaries. So my last video was on forgiveness and the importance of forgiveness, but I think that once you have forgiven, this is the next big step, is to set boundaries. You need to set boundaries with your friends. You need to set boundaries with your family, co-workers, and especially in romantic relationship. You definitely need to have boundaries because boundaries are your best friend. If you lack boundaries, you will be tossed in every direction. You will be tossed in every direction. Everybody will tell you what to think, but to feel how to be. And if you don't have a perception of who you are, what you want, and where you're going, you will definitely be tossed by every single wind that comes your way. So the number one thing with boundaries is consistency. Boundaries are not boundaries if you only have them occasionally. Boundaries need to be set consistently. I'll give you an example. Let's say red apples. This is probably not it, but I'll still go ahead with it. Let's say red apples are not your favorite. Let's say that's the boundary. Red apples need to not be your favorite every single day. You can't play with boundaries. You can't have them one day and not the other, because if you're not consistent, this is what causes disrespect. This is what causes people to look at you like a doormat. This is what causes people to take you for granted. This is what causes people to hurt you. And you won't be needing to forgive so many people if you have boundaries. The right boundaries will prevent you from getting your heart broken by people. The right boundaries will prevent you from being disrespected, disregarded, and rejected by people, quite frankly. I mean, we will all be rejected at some point, or we've all been rejected at some point, but having boundaries puts you in a position where you're not looking for approval. You're not looking to be accepted. You know who you are. You know whose you are, aka God, period. And you're not looking to be affirmed by people. You're not looking to be validated by people. And one thing I've noticed, I've met people from all walks of life, different age groups, but one thing I've realized we all have in common is we don't want to be alone. We don't want to walk alone. We don't want to feel left out. And so we tolerate things. We tolerate being disrespected. We tolerate being mistreated, taken for granted. We tolerate all these things because we don't want to walk alone. But I'll be very honest with you. You have to understand that when you set boundaries, you will walk alone most of the time. You are going to be a lone wolf because people have a hard time being around people who cannot be easily controlled. And so when you set boundaries, it shows I'm not going to be controlled. I love you and I care about you, but I have my own opinions. I have my own views. I have my own way of doing things, and I'm not going to change that just for you. And I'm not saying be stubborn and be a person who's not flexible. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about firm beliefs and values. You have to set boundaries around that because it is important to you. It makes you who you are. So yeah, like I was saying, people don't like people with boundaries because they cannot be easily controlled. So a lot of times you're going to be a lone wolf, and you have to be okay with walking alone. Let me tell you something. People might not like you, but they will respect you when you have boundaries. The problem is you want to be liked by everyone. That's not a good thing, because even if you do everything right, you're not going to be liked by everyone. You might think by being a pushover and saying yes to everything, people will be nice to you and they'll want to be around you. Yes, only so they can continue to use you and drain you. But when you stand firm and you have boundaries, it will definitely push all the wolves out. And the right people, the good people that God has set for you in your life will start to come, because people who truly love you will respect your boundaries. People who are truly meant to be in your life will respect them. But sharks love passive people. They love people with no boundaries because they can come and use you and use you. And mind you, don't get upset at people for using you. People only do as much as you allow. If you allow disrespect, you will be disrespected. If you allow chaos, you will be surrounded by chaos. So boundaries are very important. And when I got saved, I used to think that Christians were supposed to be yes men. We were supposed to be kind all the time. And I've learned you can love people and you can be kind with them without tolerating certain things. I believe that if you don't have limits in this life or on your faith journey, you will not make it. You will not make it. You will be used and abused, and you will end up living in unforgiveness, bitterness, and resentment. And as much as, people can do you wrong, it's up to you what you allow once again. Because no one will step to you and disrespect you if you already have that line marked right there that they cannot cross that. It's your responsibility to take care of your heart. The Bible says guard your heart above all else, because that's where life flows. You've got to guard your heart. You've got to guard your life, because it's human nature to take advantage. That's just what it is. So you have to choose. Do you want to be liked or do you want to be respected? Can you have both? No. I mean, you can with the right people, but I'm telling you, the wrong people will never like you for putting boundaries. They will, that power trip, it's going to drive them insane. But the right people, they'll be like, well, I want to do that too. I want to have those type of boundaries. So, like I said, you can't be afraid to walk alone. And to be honest with you, it's better to walk alone, but it's better to walk alone than to be surrounded by the wrong people. And I have to say that the Bible says that if you lack wisdom, ask God. He'll give you the wisdom that you need, the discernment that you need to know who's supposed to be in your life and who's not, to know how to set boundaries. I had to pray to God to teach me how to have boundaries, because I'm naturally a giver. I'm naturally just like sweet, and I'm not saying this to like vent or anything. Like I'm actually saying this like not to vent, to like, I'm not trying to like hype myself. Like, I'm naturally a kind person, and so I just want to give, and I had no boundaries, and God had to teach me, you need boundaries, Layla. You need boundaries, and you keep getting hurt because you're opening your arms to any and everyone, and you don't know if they're a sheep or they're a wolf. So when you get hurt, you're sad, but if you had guarded your heart like I've commanded you to do, you wouldn't be in this position. And so he started to teach me what it means to have boundaries. And that's why I'm making this video, because I understand now this is such an important part of life. And once I stopped caring about being liked, once I stopped caring about how I'm perceived, because people will have different perceptions of you. But once you stop caring about that, you start walking in your truth. And that is power. That is ultimate power, is walking in who God has called you to be. And I have to say, for women, it's a lot harder, because we are told that our biological clock is ticking. But just because you're getting older does not mean you need to settle. You need to have boundaries with men, girl. You need to have boundaries with men. Men don't care what you say. They care about what you do. Don't tolerate the bare minimum. Don't tolerate having half a man just because you don't want to be alone. It's better you're alone, which you're never really alone. God is always with you. But it's better for you to be alone and wait for the right person that God has for you than to just tolerate the bare minimum. Have boundaries. And as much as your emotions might fluctuate, girls, stick to your boundaries. Even for men who are watching this, like, stick to your boundaries regardless of how your emotions are feeling. If you've said no, stay on no. The Bible says, let your yes be a yes and let your no be a no. That's it. And I really have to reiterate, don't be so caught up in being liked that you lose dignity. You can't buy that. You can't buy respect. And can you buy respect? Okay, no, you can't. Fake respect, yes. I had to think about it. But you can't buy dignity. So have boundaries and choose you before you pour into anybody. You've got to let God pour into you. You've got to take care of you first. Then you can take care of other people and pour into other people. But boundaries will be your best friend. They are your best friend. If you don't have any, ask God. He will teach you how to have boundaries. And anyone worth keeping will respect your boundaries. Especially with family members. You definitely have to keep, I keep trying to end the video, but things keep coming up in my mind. Definitely have boundaries with your family. The only way they will respect it is if they see that you're consistent about what you say. You mean what you say and say what you mean. Okay? I know this one was a little bit more serious, but just to piggyback off of the forgiveness video, you can forgive people. But if you have boundaries, you won't have to go through it over and over again. Because you learned a lesson. Once you learned a lesson, you forgive. Once you forgive, you put up boundaries. Okay? Goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video.